welcome to yet another episode of Conversations with Yosa. Let us have a conversation today about mentorship. Sure, why not? What's not to like about mentorship? What is mentorship? If I were to poll 100 business executives, or even maybe 1,000 business executives and leaders all across the world, and ask them what a key ingredient, or what are some of the key ingredients to having a successful career and profession, I can guarantee you that majority of them, if not all, will mention mentorship as a key ingredient. So what exactly is mentorship? Who is a mentor? Who isn't a mentor? Will the lack of mentorship break one's career? Joining me on the show to discuss this is a guy who lives and breathes mentorship, because we'll be dissecting it on today's show. Roland Ehigiamusoe is a managing director at one of the big 4 consulting firms with over 20 years of experience. Just want to make sure I get this right. With over 20 years of experience helping clients grow their businesses by providing insights through analytics and delivering data as an enterprise asset. Now get this, folks, that's his day job. You know, I'm all about day jobs and side gigs. His bigger main gig is being a mentor, and we're going to dissect it today. So Roland, welcome to the show. I'm glad you could join us.
Thanks for having me, Yosa. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. You live and breathe mentorship, because I recall a few weeks ago when we, talked briefly about this. You mentioned you live and breathe it. It has a special place in your heart. You don't take it for granted. What exactly do you mean by this?
I think it's really hinged on the fact that one of our bigger assets, whether you look across corporations or in our everyday life or in our daily interactions, is our talent, the people around us. So if we can't get that right, and when I say don't get that right, in terms of making the right investments in the people around us and building those relationships and fostering growth and development and pulling others along, then we will definitely be failing more broadly, right? You can get everything else right, but if you have that wrong, then you're not really set up for success. So I believe very firmly, in my heart, that our talent, the people around us, relationships we have, the network we build are very critical to our success. So just based on that, it only makes sense that, you both have a followership by building that, leverage behind you, giving back, and also have, a sense of a guidepost, like people ahead of you, who you also want to emulate or aspire to be like, right? So it's both an upwards looking or forwards looking and downward, not to be negative, or backward looking type of relationship, so you've got to have basically people around you to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're going to be fleshing that a little bit more as I go down the So why, I was going to ask why is mentoring important, but I think you kind of highlighted, touched on it a little bit. So let's flesh it out a little bit further. Who exactly is a mentor, right? Is there a typical profile of a mentor? Is a mentor also an advisor, a coach, a teacher, or are these mutually exclusive?
I don't think they are mutually exclusive. I think all of these things are characteristics of what would potentially be a great mentor, right? A mentor should be a guidepost, someone that you can look up to and model behaviors, around, or, model your behaviors around. A mentor too can be an advisor, a teacher, someone who's able to lean in and share their knowledge based on their growing experiences or their life experiences and help you avoid mistakes they've made, or at least help you get through situations they've been in the past. A mentor too could be an advocate, someone who's out there pounding the table for you in your life journey. And if you look at that in the workplace, that's somebody who's invested in your success almost as much as you are. No one can have more of an investment in their career than themselves, but a mentor too can play that role. So a mentor to me is multifaceted, and people ask the question: is a mentor different from a coach, different from an advisor, or different from a sponsor? I think there's variations, but for the most part, a mentor should embody a little bit of those multiple characteristics, so it's not ultimately a messy list when you look at all the different types of folks who can actually be involved in someone else's growth or career trajectory or professional development.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know we've often I think I won't say we're all career professionals, but you and I here, we're career professionals, right? And definitely I can look back at my career and think of mentors that I had along the way, right? That kind of like helped propel my career forward. Now, with that said, who isn't a mentor? Or maybe I should spin it another way. How should people or mentees go about selecting mentors, like those they want to mentor them, right? Also bearing in mind that sometimes it is mentors, right, who ask for the honor to mentor someone or group of people.
You know, let's start with the situation or scenario where a mentee or an individual is seeking a mentor. What I would typically advise is, you know, a couple of things, and I'll go through maybe 3 examples. Number one being, you should be looking at someone who models behaviors that you aspire to.
Okay.
Right? Somebody who's living the values you believe in or have like shared philosophies. And because that person is further advanced in their journey, you know, you can feel confident that you will be learning from the right examples. So in that case, identifying a mentor means, you know, I look up to this person, or I aspire to be like them, or they embody certain characteristics that I find to be positive or valuable. That's number one. Number two is also having, beyond that sense of identity alignment with the person, is also be certain that they understand, or at least they have some knowledge about what it is you aspire to be, right? From a competency or experiential perspective. So, you know, I want to become a CEO, then it only makes sense that you're looking for a mentor who's a CEO in a similar industry or almost a like type industry.
Okay.
And then thirdly, you know, it should be someone who's actually going to also have the time to invest in you, because not every mentor is created equal, not for lack of interest, but some might not have the capacity. So those are some conversations you have to ask as well or confirm up front. But even more importantly, in that relationship, and I start with that, there's a dynamic there where it is not only, you should not only anticipate to be on the receiving end in that relationship,
Okay.
you should also be willing to offer something in that mentoring relationship. Because a good mentor also is keenly aware that there are things that they too get to learn from you.
From that relationship, right?
From that relationship, right? In experiencing your journey along with you, and in things that, you know, you potentially have on the table for discussion. So it should be a two-way street. It's not just a one-way collect street. But I think with those 3 things, one being, you know, find something that is aspirational in the behaviors they exhibit. 2, ensure that, you know, they have an understanding or experiences in this space you want to grow in. And then thirdly, that you're also bringing something to the table. So there's a true relationship being built there.
There's the give and take, right? Which is important, right? Okay, so now that there's what I call, and this is just my term, I just coined it now. There's what I call physical mentoring, and then there's virtual mentoring. Now, what do I mean by virtual mentoring? You mentioned it's key that whoever I seek, so I'm just going to use myself as an example. Whoever I seek as a mentor, I should want to emulate that person. I see something in that person that I want to emulate, or, you know, there's a vision, there's a goal, and I see that that person has achieved it. Now, what if we're assuming that this person is reachable, right? Now, what if, for lack of a better person, I mean, she's fantastic. In this, my line of side gig, I'm thinking Oprah, right? So she's it, right? I mean, she's when you talk about like talk shows and all that, she easily just comes to mind as number one. Now, I love what she does. She continues to do it, but she's not reachable, or at least not right now to me. What about in that kind of situation? What do I do, right? I really love her, but not reachable.
I think that's an interesting proposition. And by the way, when you do get a hold of Oprah, you know, let me know. I wouldn't say anything is, I feel like everything is possible. But in this scenario you've just described, there's things you can do to gain some visibility into what they've done, right? I'm sure as certain as the sun rises that there's books about Oprah's experiences if anyone's a fan of her talk shows, you kind of get to see from a remote standpoint, what she's about and how she operates. In followership, she doesn't necessarily have to be available to you, but then there's things about her that are publicly available that you can consume that gives you, to some extent, and some insights into her experiences and what she's done differently, right? I think Oprah's life is pretty open. It's an open book.
Right.
So for me, in those situations, I'd say read a biography, right? Like, if you find a leader that's inspiring, then by all means, go read a book about them. I in my past, when I was much younger, was very intrigued by General Peyton's experiences and his successes. And I read his biography and read some books about him. So it kind of is instructional to some of the things they've done right and what they've done wrong, and things that it would suggest you do differently in certain situations. And that's also a way to learn. So I think in that virtual context, you can kind of enrich yourself by studying, the folks that you think or you feel are inspirational. There's books for that.
You're right. You're spot on there. You're right. I think that's so now, which segues to maybe my next question is, so it's possible for someone to have more than one mentor, right? Absolutely. Is it advisable? Is it advisable?
It's advisable. You definitely want to get different perspectives, right? It's not enough to have a singular thought as your guidepost. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to have like comparisons and, effectively determine what works best for you. So yes, it is strongly suggested, at least from my perspective, that you have, multiple mentors. If I look at my experience as an example, I've had mentors who've stepped into my life proactively. To your initial point about, mentors actually reaching out to be mentors to individuals. And those are very wonderful scenarios, right? Because that then says someone's identified something in you that they also want to be involved in nurturing or helping grow, right? And individuals like that are truly stellar, right? So in my own experience, I've had folks who've done that. I've also identified mentors proactively where, here's somebody who models behaviors that, I aspire to. And I invest in that relationship. Back to the third point I made around making sure you're able to give something back, right? So it's a two-way relationship. So I have those different flavors, but at every point in time, I literally can say I have maybe 3 or 4 individuals that I can immediately mention or name as mentors. And my mentors have been in place for years, and they continue to be advocates for me, yes, and people I still reach out to for counsel. Absolutely.
Okay, and I think that's I can imagine being a mentor. That should be very gratifying, right? Just kind of like watching your mentees grow just over the years and become a managing director. I mean, that's fantastic.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, and then you mentioned having that two-way street, right? It's a two-way street between a mentor and a mentee. What other guidelines do you have to have a successful mentoring relationship? I mean, does the concept of tough love, right? Tough love, does it come to bear in this kind of relationship, or should there be hand holding, kid gloving, or I guess what's to expect for a nice workable mentoring relationship?
So I think there are certain things to put in context as you determine what makes sense, right? As the mentee or the individual who's going to be receiving the guidance,
right?
The individual might have a preference for how they receive feedback or input. There are individuals who are happy to be, receive very direct and pointed feedback or straight talk. To your point, tough love. There are people who would rather have the feedback like encapsulated in a little bit more, friendly language, if you may, to your point around kid gloves.
Okay.
But I think that's the balance that, the mentor has to strike with the mentee, because of course there's no relationship if you don't truly understand the other individual's preferred style of engagement.
It's like, then what are we doing? Probably just a waste of time. You know?
It's a waste of time. So I think the onus as well, in my mind, primarily is on the mentee to level set those expectations, right? For me, as an individual, I prefer, like, cut out the extra, give it to me raw and direct.
Straight shot, right?
I can handle it, let me know what you think, right? And I have mentors who appreciate that and able to just give me feedback. It saves us time, and immediately is actionable for me. I have mentors, or I've had mentors who I a little bit, more finesse in the approach, and not to say it's less finesse than direct approach, but find a way to like articulate the feedback to you without the toughness. That too works well, as but again, it depends on the individual. So it's relative. I think it's up to the individual styles of both mentor and mentee. But for me, in a mentorship relationship, it should be hinged on trust, which then means that your mentor should be able to speak to you freely and openly, and you too should be open to receiving their feedback and guidance, right? It's both things. It's not always going to be you're doing something wrong, here's what you need to go do. They're serving as guides, in your
and
journey.
And pat on the back for a job well done as well,
Right.
Definitely. Right. Okay, so in your let's swing it a little bit. So you in the capacity as a mentor, and then facing your mentees. Now, as a mentee, you just stated that you actually don't mind the more direct approach, right? Just give it to me, straight shot. Now let's flip it. Now you're a mentor with your mentees. How do you go about? Are you still like look, I'm just giving it to you straight shot, or like you said, you kind of understand each characteristic of your mentee, and then you adjust yourself, right, accordingly?
Yes. So by default,
because if you're a straight shooter like I am, then it's not like, okay, what do I do? But I guess it's a learning point for you too as a mentor.
There you go. So again, in the mentor-mentee relationship, the mentor also gets to learn. So in being a mentor, I've also had to learn certain things over time, which is part of my growth and development as such as a leader. And I have to manage my communication style to suit the individuals I'm engaging with. However, my style is more straightforward, direct messaging. But as a parent to two wonderful kids, I don't treat my son the way I treat my daughter. And that's not being unfair. That's equity, because each one has to be met, in halfway in their journey.
And this is not because we know that, fathers and their daughters, there's a special relationship there.
There might be a factor of that, but that might be a different discussion topic. But ultimately, as you engage with folks, you're going to have to tailor your style to suit their needs, right? Because again, as a mentor, is a significant responsibility, right? Like, and if you take that seriously, then you're invested as much, like I said, in the individual's career as they are, right? Even though they own their careers or their growth or their desires. But because you're really invested, you're going to have to modulate how you're engaging with each individual to meet them at their point of need, right? So I have mentees who are willing to take the direct, no holds barred kind of approach, and I have mentees who I have to kind of cater to and ensure that they're getting a softer message. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now that you brought up your teenagers, let's talk about them. Right? You've got two teenagers. One is a late teen. I'll say he's going on his sophomore year in college, and then one is an early teen on her way to high school. I guess if I'm correct.
Middle school.
Middle school. Okay, still in middle school. Okay. Now, how do you balance? Are you a mentor, right, or a person of because parents are almost virtually like mentors. I mean, the good ones who are vested in their children, and I like to believe we mostly are. So how do you balance their need for self-discovery, right, versus you as a parent, as a mentor, in trying to guide them to be the best versions of themselves?
So earlier on you had mentioned, one of my greater I guess one of my greater desires is to be, a mentor, a good mentor. Right. But I think my biggest job, my first job, and my most important job is to be a good parent, a good father to my kids. And this is timely, right? Considering tomorrow is Father's Day. As you can see on my cup, my children recognize that I'm the world's best dad. Yes.
Right.
But to answer your question, the balance lies in the fact that there's an emotional connection with my children that says, you know, I would be a whole lot more invested in them compared to anyone else, right? And which also means that my job here is to be of guidance and to support them in their development years. Most parents, all parents have that responsibility. Most parents approach it in different ways.
Right.
My approach is to serve first as an example in the actions I take. I have to be representative of what I hope they become and what I hope they even do better than.
Okay.
Which removes the hypocrisy, right? So I have to set the standards through first my behavior. And then in the things that
do as I do, not as I say.
Correct.
Okay.
So if I set that example, it means I have to be, to a greater extent, transparent in letting my children know where I have also made mistakes, with the hope that they learn from those early lessons. So that's now moving beyond first the modeling of the right behavior to the articulating of the right behavior. So you model it, you articulate it, and then the third part for me is you have to watch them grow. Your kids are unique. They're their own beings, right? And I know there's parenting where, you know, some parents like to orchestrate to the finer details what the children get involved in. I take a little bit more of a backseat where my goal is to ask my children what they want to do and get behind it. But my job is to help them understand what, from my experiences, I understand the decisions to be, or what that would mean in the long run. Right. So if you know, my son has made career decisions that weren't influenced by, you know, us growing up with African parents, whereas you have to be an engineer, lawyer, you know, doctor.
I want to call the 5 professions. You know, if you're not any of these 5, it's like you're a failure.
Then you're failing, right? So that hasn't been passed on to my kids. My son instead has made a decision like, hey, I want to go to law school, ultimately to be a sports agent for soccer players, because he loves soccer, he plays soccer in college. And to him is like, you know, to be able to negotiate the right contracts for players. That's because he's found the balance between his passion and what can become a profession for him, right? So my daughter wants to do something entirely different and has a whole different perspective as to how she gets there. She's younger at 13, but guess what? That may change over time, but them understanding they have the flexibility to make that decision, but they have the guidance and feedback from you as a parent gives them more confidence as they go on their journey. And if they, you know, if you choose to be, you know, something not within the 5 that an African parent would, and that's great. But, you know, just get, my job is to let you know what that means for you, like, you know, professionally from an occupational standpoint, successfully from a financial standpoint, and, you know, in your overall growth and, you know, where it finally takes you. And it's ultimately your journey. I'm not going to live their lives for them. Right. That's the reality.
And you know, the thing about the 5, I think that's going away now that we are becoming parents, right? I mean, you and I certainly don't have that perspective on our children. Like, there isn't a 5 profession. There are professions. Just pick one, as long as there's a thought process to it. Like, okay, so why are you going down this path? Oh, Daddy, I think okay, you know, then go have at it. You know, so no, this is fantastic. And I think it is, like you said, it's key that we parents are present. It's just really being present, watching them grow, and just being that sounding board, you know, for them. But they're their own individuals, just as we are, you know.
Correct.
Yeah, Roland. So we've done the serious part now, you know, the stuff like mentorship. But you've given us very good insights into mentorship, and I'm sure my viewers will appreciate it. But let's get to know a little bit more here, right? And in this segment, I should have maybe someone on the background ring a bell, you know, to let me know when the segment is about to start. But this is what I call the trivia segment, and this is I've got 4 envelopes here, labeled 1 to 4. I need you to pick one, and whatever is within that envelope is fair game. Like, you can't tell me if it says dance or whatever, you can't tell me no, because I don't have to dance. Okay. Okay.
It's a tough one, but yeah.
1 to 4. What's your pick?
I think we'll go with the number 3.
Number 3. Okay. So it's number 3. I'm not like deceiving you or anything like that.
I don't get the benefit of knowing what the other 3 are. So that's whatever it is, fun.
Okay. Oh wow. So this one is called it's trivia, and it's trivia about Nigeria or Nigerians in general. Okay. All right. Who sang? And I'm sure you know this. I'm kind of hoping, but anyway. And if you don't know it, that's perfectly okay. A lot of these I just found out the other day when I was doing the, trying to research them, and I'm like, oh wow. So we'll learn something new. It's just part of the experience and just part of the fun. Okay.
Okay. All
okay.
Right.
All right. Here we go. 5 questions. Who sang the song Omoge?
Who sang the song Omoge?
So this Omoge goes back to like when we were young. Like,
is that the title of the song?
I think so. Do you want to sing a little bit of it, and then?
I think I know what the song is.
Okay. Like Omoge yesterday, not be free.
Is that is Okri in the name? No,
yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. So Mike Okri.
Okay, but the reason why I got confused because I was thinking Ben Okri, but yes, Mike Okri, correct. Yes.
Well, Ben is the
writer.
Right? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Oh, good one. So check. All right. This one's a little bit Afrobeat of these days. In Wizkid's Essence song, who is the object of his affection in the music video?
Oh, so I'm a big music head, audiophile. I don't do very well with the videos.
Oh, with the videos, okay.
So I will.
I don't think it was a duet. I think it was Wizkid's song, but she featured in it quite prominently, and she sings it as well.
If it's the person who's featured on the song, isn't that Thames?
Yes.
Right.
Look at you. So you're old. You're new.
Hey, I am very up to date with my music.
I'm impressed. All right. Who was so I've already given a good was, so no longer alive, right? So who was the president of Kalakuta Republic?
Oh, I mean, the republic was made up, but it's Fela for sure.
What do you mean by the republic was made up?
It was made up by Fela, so it's So he owns it in his mind, in his body,
everything, right?
Yes, it's all him.
Okay. Wow, look at that. 3 so far. 3 out of 3. Okay. Which famous Nigerian? No, this one is even a giveaway. Like, oh my goodness, why do I even have this? Which famous Nigerian was the author of Things Fall Apart?
I mean, you can already answer that question. Yes. Cyprian. Oh no, hold on. Things Fall Apart. With Okonkwo in the story. Now I'm mixing things up. I don't know why Cyprian and Quincy came to mind.
No, not Cyprian.
Oh my goodness!
If I tell you now, you would hit you're like, of course.
Look, the name is right there at the tip of my tongue. If you give me a hint, like what the first name starts with, then maybe I'll get there.
The first 3 letters are CHI.
CHI.
Yep.
You made it worse. I said give me the first.
So I might as well tell you. Huh?
First letter of the first name, you give me CHI, and that's
the first letter, okay, C, and then the first letter of the last name A.
Chinua Achebe. I am so embarrassed, but please go on. Question 5.
Don't be, please. Okay, last one. P Square. We know P Square, right? P Square, the popular music duo. What are their first names?
Peter and Paul.
Yeah, even though they're no longer, I think they've disbanded or something. I don't know.
I believe so.
Yeah, yes. It's such a shame, but yeah. And I think they're thinking of getting back together to do something again. But anyway.
Good for them.
It. Roland, that's it. You did. I had so much fun. You did amazingly well.
I mean, I would have hoped there was a prize on the back end of this, but it is what it is. I can walk away with some street cred.
Yes, please. Roland, thank you so much for your time on the show today, for enlightening us about mentorship. We all know, I'm just going to address the viewers now. So viewers, mentorship is pretty important in, for our professional careers or even our personal lives. And typically it is, we want to have someone as a mentor whom we can emulate and who can serve as that guiding post in our professional development. So it's not to be taken lightly, and it's I'll say it's one of the critical key ingredients in one's professional career. So Roland, thank you so much again, and glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure, and this was fun. You should do it again.
Yes, it was indeed. It was. So viewers, all good things must come to an end, and this is one of the good things. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button so that you're alerted when new episodes drop, which are going to be every Fridays. And if you continue to watch the show, it means you really like the content. Go ahead and share it. Share the link with your friends. The goodness of conversations with Yogusa. Until the next episode, the next time, I say you stay safe and have a super sparkly one. Bye now.